Hey pals, how are you doing? I'm back and I have penises. Before we begin, I just want to say that this is a paid partnership with MSL. They did tell me to use my own opinions on everything and say what I like, so I'm going to try my best to make this video as non-biased as possible and try and make it as informative as it can be for you. I was sent 3 of their prosthetics. I'm going to be talking about penises, sex, standing to pee, so if you're not comfortable with that stuff, I wouldn't recommend this video, but if you are, then let's get into it. First thing I'll say is that these are investment pieces. The cheapest one I have here is 280 euros and the most expensive one is 417. The reason they are not cheap is because a lot of work goes into them, and they are probably the most realistic packers that I have seen so far. In my past I've had Mr. Limpy's, I've had a Sailor, I think that's what it's called. I've had sock ones that I've made myself. I've used Real Magic ones, I've had a Peacock. So I have tested a few packers in my time and I think these ones are very impressive. I have my laptop down here, so if I'm looking down then that's why I'm not like reading off a script or anything. I've just noted little points. I've written down a number of things that I want to rate in this video and talk about, which are the realistic aesthetic of the entire thing, the packing size / comfort, the shaft realism, the scrotum aesthetic, the scrotum feel, the play size, the STP funnel sturdiness, the comfort, which I kind of mentioned before, the visibility when it's in your underwear, and the price. So I'm hoping that this will be a pretty intense overview of these packers. All of these packers have a flap on the top that you can actually adhere to your body with medical glue. I think you have to shave your pubic hair if you want this to stay, or you can use a harness if you don't want to attach it that way. But I'll link the medical glue that they recommend and the medical glue remover that they also recommend in the description. There's an option to have it with or without hair, and they will like put the hair on the flap so that it's a little bit more discreet if you're wanting to wear it in public, or even if you just want it to be more realistic when you're looking at it yourself. There's also 16 shades of colors for the actual packers. So there's a wide range, it's not just like light, medium and dark. So the first packer that I'm going to be talking about is the FL01, which comes in at 280 euros. When I was looking on the website, I actually thought that this one was probably the one that I would most like to use. I'm not the biggest fan of STPs because I piss all over myself every time I try and do it, and this time was no different. But this packer is just a packer. It's not for playing, it's not for STPing, it's just here to sit in your underwear, to look realistic and to feel realistic too. I rated this one at 2nd place for the realistic aesthetic. I think the balls are really realistic and they've got like a good amount of wrinkle on them, and I think it's just a really nice packer in general. Something that really stood out to me when I first opened it was the feel of the shaft. I've noticed that a lot of packers that I've seen in the past have been really like bouncy and squishy, but this shaft, I don't know how to explain it, but it's kind of like memory foam gel. It's probably the softest packer in terms of the shaft that I've ever felt, and it's kind of really weird but in a good way. I've tried 2 of these packers. I want to give one away, but I tried 2 of them just so I could give you a bit of a better review of them. I feel like I couldn't really do that if I wasn't going to try them out. So this one I feel was the most comfortable because it didn't have a funnel on the back and it kind of just sat on you in the right place. One thing that I will mention is that I feel like these packers are made for smaller people. I say that because the flap comes up quite high, so if you've got a stomach that comes out over your pubic mons, then the flap's not going to be that comfortable. In the pictures that they have on the website, the person modeling it has quite a flat stomach, so this doesn't really bend or slip down or anything. But if you're bigger like me, the flap kind of bulks out because it doesn't go smoothly on. I don't have any medical glue, so I didn't glue it on, but it might be different if you do. It's just one thing to keep in mind if you are a bigger person. Obviously you can't use this one for playing or standing to pee, but for general packing I think it's really cool. This is going to be really hard to kind of convey on camera, but you can feel balls inside of them and you can squish them around, and you can even like flip them around, which you shouldn't do with actual testicles, but it's kind of fun to do with these. I think they've got like a fluid inside the scrotum so that the balls can kind of like float around and live their happy lives. This one's the cheapest, and I feel like the shaft and the testicles are probably the most realistic in terms of aesthetics. The second packer I'm going to talk about is the second generation STP, which comes in at €340. This one comes with a insert for playing, which is made out of silicone. You do need lube to insert it all the way through, otherwise it's just a bit stiff and doesn't really work. I know that there are a couple other companies that do insertable rods with like bum holes and vaginas and lips on the edge of the rod so that it gives you pleasure while you're penetrating or playing with it, but these ones are just entirely flat. I feel like this one is the biggest of the three that I have, but it has the smallest flap to adhere to your body, which is kind of weird. Ooh. Since this is the second generation and I have the third generation with me, the flap is much bigger on the third generation, so they might have realised that they needed a bigger flap and changed it accordingly. I rated this one in third place in terms of realism. That's not to say that it's not realistic, because it is amazingly realistic, but the reason I put it in third place was because the testicles are very hard and the ridge in between the testicles kind of makes them two separate things, when I feel like ball sacks are really just one thing with two testicles sitting in. So I just felt like the line was a bit too prominent, but it is incredibly realistic. I also feel like the funnel to STP is way more sturdy than the third generation, which was weird to me because I tried the third generation one and I didn't find it sturdy enough at all. This is the only one that I haven't tried because I want to give it away, but I feel like it would possibly work better to STP, but I'm not entirely sure. Again, this one has the floating testicles inside and you can see them when you squeeze, which is really fun. I feel like this one would be really big to pack. I'm not sure how realistic it is to pack with outside of the home. I feel like you might draw a bit of attention, but maybe if you've got a bigger frame and you're tall, it might look more realistic. For me, as a 5'2" small boy, I feel like it wouldn't be realistic enough, or I'd probably be very self-conscious if I went out wearing this. It also looks very erect, so if you're going to use it in a urinal or something, you might get a few odd looks if someone's peering over the edge, because it does look very erect. Other than that, I do think it's really realistic and amazing that they managed to put so much detail on it. There's blue veins, there's a lot of wrinkles in the foreskin, there's an immediate colour change when it comes to the head and the foreskin. I feel like this one is not circumcised, but I could be wrong, just because it looks like the foreskin could possibly come over the head, but it doesn't move. Something that puts me off wearing STPs and play devices is that there's a really noticeable hollow sound to them. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, but when I squeeze it, it kind of sticks together and makes a little bit of a popping sound, so I feel like that is frustrating if I'm going to be packing with that, which I know can't be helped with most STP devices because there's a giant hole in the middle, but I prefer packing devices that are just full. It's also worth noting that there is quite a big hole at the head, which I know you need to avoid having backflow when you're peeing into it, but it is very circular. I had a look on the website and they do have other STP devices with more of a slit that you have to push down, I assume, when you pee so that it opens more, which I think I'd prefer. I don't know if that functions better as an STP or not, so there's probably a reason why they have made it into a hole rather than a movable slit. The last one I have is the 3rd generation STP, which comes in at €417. This one has the most realistic feeling testicles out of all of them, and possibly out of every single packer I've ever had. The other two had scrotums that were quite tough, even though you could kind of feel the testicles inside, but this one is really squishy and you can really feel the balls inside, and you can kind of like pinch around the skin and it just feels very realistic. This one packs naturally down, so I feel like it would create less of a bulge in your pants. I think the flap on this one is the biggest out of all of them, which, because it's the 3rd generation, I'm assuming was more functional in terms of sticking to your body. I feel like the wrinkles on the shaft aren't as prominent as the 2nd generation, but they're still there and it still looks really realistic. Even though it kind of looks flaccid in the way that it falls, I feel like it has a bit of an erect appearance because the foreskin is pulled back. Again, I'm not sure if this is just because it's circumcised or not. The underside of it doesn't have that kind of ridge that the other two do, which is probably not that important when you're wearing it, but it is just a nice detail that the other two do have. This is the one that I tried STPing with and it just didn't work for me. But that's not saying much because every STP that I've ever used does not work. I think it really depends on your body type and size and how much down there is visible and how much familiarity you have with it. So really practice with it before you go out into public with it to avoid a mishap. One thing I mentioned with the 2nd generation was that the funnel was really sturdy. The 3rd generation I feel isn't sturdy at all and doesn't have as much of a lip, which is kind of worrying because I feel like you kind of need that sturdiness to pee from. I also feel like the funnel has a bit of a dip, so water or urine might collect in that. It's kind of difficult to explain, but I feel like if it was on your body, you'd have to really like turn it upside down to get it to drain out properly. The funnel goes up and then the penis goes down, so I'm not quite sure how it would work in terms of STPing with someone that is good at doing it. I did try packing with this one as well and it was comfortable, but I feel like the funnel makes it less comfortable for me than the packer on its own. I don't really like having things like making me aware of my genitals, if that makes sense. So having something that was like right on the bottom made me a bit conscious of it, but that's just a personal thing. It might be different for other people. This one again has a hole rather than a slit at the head, so I feel like that's just something that STPs need. This one can be used for playing as well. It comes with a silicone insert which kind of goes downwards, so I'm not entirely sure how well it would work for playing with someone. I'm not entirely sure if the action of penetration will tear the underside because it would have to stretch the silicone quite a lot. Maybe they took that into account when they were making it and they have preventative measures for that happening, but I'm not sure. I guess it really just depends on what you want a packer or STP device or a play device for. Obviously, if you want something that is girthy and more sizable, then you're gonna probably want the second generation STP. If you want something just to pack with that looks realistic, you're probably gonna want the packer that I showed you without the function of STPing or playing. If you're not too bothered about size when it comes to sex, but you want something to stand to pee with, then your best bet is probably the third generation, although I would be wary of the funnel in that one and really test it out at home. All in all, I think these are really impressive packers. I would definitely recommend checking them out because I can see how they would make a massive improvement on your life if you struggle with lower dysphoria. Thank you, Emersil, for sending me these. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that I can share them with you. Like I said before, I'm going to give one of them away. The one I haven't worn, so it's like all clean and everything, is the second generation STP with the rod, and I think in total that would come to 360-ish euros. I'm gonna let my patrons decide if any of them want the packer first, because they allow me to pay for shipping and everything. I feel like that's only fair. If none of them want it, I will leave it in the description. I ask that you only enter the giveaway if you are in the UK and over 18. That's a must because I can't do it any other way. Thank you to Sol, Bex, Sasha and Oliver on Patron. I appreciate you so much, and I'm excited to start doing more content for you. I hope you're enjoying it at the moment. Some stuff should be up if you're interested in checking that out. You can follow me on Patreon for free, but you just won't get the perks, but you'll be able to see what kind of stuff I'm posting on there. I hope everyone's doing well. Hope you're having a great day and a great week and a great month and a great everything, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.